askreddit. How would you feel about a law that required people to donate their organs after death? Not all organs are donated to people. Many body parts are used in various fields of science and biology. Like plastic surgeons use them for practice. Or some parts are scattered across various farms used to test how the body may decay under certain conditions. I recommend the book Stiff by Mary Roach. Very interesting. I think it's best as an option rather than forced. Some people may just want to have their body rest peacefully in the ground, and really that's okay. Now I'm thinking of a plastic surgeon doing his thing on donated faces. Look at this poor bastard, I bet he died of ugliness. I'll fix that right now. Please make sure I am very dead. Or at the minimum that I don't wake up. I am registered as an organ donor for all my organs and tissues, but I do not think it should be mandatory. Some people are very uncomfortable with it, for personal or religious reasons. The opt-out plan is great, in my opinion. Covers people too lazy to opt in, but still allows for people to make their own decisions. Nobody would be too lazy to opt out if they have strongly held beliefs. I need my carefully collected jars of my own organs to follow my mummified body into the afterlife, along with all the little figurines I've surrounded myself with who will become my workforce. So, no. I've got rivers to cross and trials to overcome. Not good, some people really do not want to do it. I am an organ donor, my driver's license says I am, and I am guessing that info is in some kind of database, or it should be, but I think forcing people by law to donate organs after they die is wrong. I think just educating people on why it's a good thing to do is better, and if they still refuse, so be it. And people could say once you are dead you lose your earthly rights, but sorry, I still think it's wrong to go against people's wishes, be they dead or alive. Surprisingly to some, very negatively, assuming that it's done the way it's done now in the US. Before I'm downvoted into oblivion, please consider my reasoning. The organ donation system has some serious ethical issues around it. First, a fully dead person's organs are rarely, if ever, harvested for use due to the likelihood of degradation that even a short period of time without oxygenating blood causes. Therefore, the system depends on the brain dead for organs. Now, not all organs that are harvested through donation processes go to living recipients, many go to research centers and medical schools, sometimes for a significant financial gain to the donation organization and/or hospital. Moreover, organ transplantation surgeries are used as a measure of prestige by hospitals in recruiting surgical residents and increasing medical school admissions, which are all significant conflicts of interest. Institutional review boards, which are supposed to weigh the ethics of these situations, are notoriously permissive of organ transplantation, often because the board belongs to either the hospital or an allied organization. These systemic issues all came to light for me when my wife and I had a friend whose mother experienced a sudden stroke, and the father was heavily pressured into an organ harvesting procedure in the following 24 hours because his wife was registered as an organ donor. She was an extremely healthy woman in her late 50s, she had the stroke during her thrice-weekly tennis game, and he is a healthcare professional, though importantly, not a physician, nurse, or PA. He came out of the experience so angry that he told his daughters to remove themselves from organ donation rosters. Looking into his experience more deeply, my wife, a bioethicist and theologian, and I, an expert in medical device regulation, found some quite nasty things hiding. In her situation, the worst were these: when he first told the representatives of the organ donation non-profit that he wanted to be left alone with his wife, he was told that it is hospital policy that, in cases where brain death tests come up positive on admission, he was required to meet with them as a condition of her care. If he didn't wish to meet with them, he could take his comatose wife to another hospital. A significant body of medical literature indicates that, following brain injury, including stroke, swelling of the brain that can lead to a high percentage of false negatives in common brain activity tests, and that this effect typically lasts for 48 to 72 hours after the injury. Waiting for the brain to stop swelling does increase the risk that the patient will die, despite life-saving measures, before organs can be harvested. The donation organization did not disclose this information to my friend's father, and they, successfully, pressured him into allowing her organs to be harvested before that time period ended. As part of their pressure tactics, they claimed that, because she listed herself as an organ donor on her license, he did not have the ethical or legal right to override her wishes for harvesting once tests showed that she was brain dead. He didn't know about the literature around the false positive rates, so he didn't know that there was a small but significant chance, maybe up to 10 to 15%, that the test result would change just 24 to 48 hours later. He was her husband, which means that, absent a power of attorney, he had the legal authority to make any decision in regards to her care. As he filled out the consent forms, they argued that he could not refuse to consent to both organ donation to live recipients and to research use. As part of her exposure to healthcare through her husband, she was outspoken within the family for her belief that, while organs saving lives was fine, organs being used for experiments was not. When he revealed to them that he was a professional in healthcare and that this would be against her wishes, they continued this line of argument until he threatened them with legal action should they attempt to use his wife's organs for purposes other than those he explicitly consented to. He then made them agree to provide all paperwork around the chain of custody for her organs, or he would subpoena it as part of discovery for a lawsuit. Please remember that all of this is happening in the context of a perfectly healthy woman's sudden collapse, and that he is trying simply to wrap his head around the loss. Any pressure in this time of grief is frankly unconscionable, but the underlying institutionalized unethical behaviors are problematic. It might be argued that these people behaved so unethically because of the rarity of brain-dead organ donors, but to be perfectly honest, the incidence of brain death is sufficiently rare that, if we were to legalize this without complete overhaul of the system around it, this sort of behavior would affect far more people. UK here. My wife had a brain hemorrhage, aged 40, and was being kept alive by a ventilator. She was registered as an organ donor and the hospital staff couldn't have been more respectful. She was given a 0% chance of ever regaining consciousness, so I filled in the forms. They identified recipient matches for her liver and pancreas. They got a surgical team scrubbed up, waiting for her in theater. They disconnected the ventilator and waited for her to stop breathing. They gave up waiting after 3 hours. Good job really, because she woke up after a week and is still breathing 9 years later. I can't fault anything they did, but sometimes I feel sorry for those people who thought they were about to get a new liver or pancreas. Everyone deserves complete body autonomy, and any law that removes any of that is a basic human rights violation. I don't care. When I'm dead, just throw me in the trash. Dude, be courteous. Recycle. It would technically be a violation of bodily autonomy to require someone to donate anything pre or posthumously, and therefore would give a great case for the pro-life community to take away abortion rights. It's a great sentiment, but unless you can opt out, I personally don't agree. Funny enough, most pro-life people I know are organ donors. They certainly wouldn't agree with this proposed law, but it makes sense to want to donate your organs for others to live if you want to preserve lives. I would feel like my government believes it owns me and can do whatever it wants with me. I feel that such a law would steadily lead to further, more egregious laws, as governments are well known for always sliding down the slippery slope to more power, tyranny, and despotic abuses of authority. Besides, who said you have any right to live longer because you want my organs? Back off, ghoul. Theoretically that would be smart, but morally not. We have the right to decide what happens to our body. If we don't defend those rights, we could end up with things like forced marriage or something. I don't know. How do you feel about a law that requires you to donate a kidney as soon as you turn 20? You only need one. What's the problem? I am on the organ donation register. I chose to be. I believe people should have the right to choose what happens to their bodies after they die. It's the only dignity they have left. Yep, it's selfish and people die because of it. But I think the tyranny required to enforce this law should be sickening to most of the Western world. I am currently in stage 5 of chronic kidney disease and need a kidney. With that being said, I think it would be insane that the government could force this on anyone. I am an organ donor myself, but I have met many people who are scared enough of death itself that the thought of someone opening them up and taking their organs is not an added worry that should be looming in their mind as they go. I am not a religious person, but I do respect other people's views and beliefs about what happens after death, and if they need their organs after death, then they shouldn't be forced to donate. Nope. I'm absolutely in favor of organ donation, and think it should be opt-out, but no one should be forced to donate if they don't want to, got whatever reason. Personally, I've specified that my body is up for grabs for any purpose, donation, education, or scientific research, but I do not want to donate my skin or eyes. I don't know what it is that bothers me about it, since I want to be cremated, but donating my skin and eyes absolutely horrifies me, and it should be my right to say I don't want that. I feel that it's almost playing God. I'm not that much of a religious person, but I feel it's kinda immoral to the people who have lost their organs without choice. If that person has specifically agreed to it, then of course by all means take what you need. Some people might be unaware of the law and not opt out, and they could be heavily religious, Jehovah's Witnesses, for example, who believe in purity of the human body. In my view, it should always remain an opt-in law, not opt-out. Absolutely against it. I don't believe that is something you can or should be able to compel people to do. I respect people who opt into doing that, and I think more people probably should, but those who don't want to do it in life shouldn't be forced to do it in death. Strongly against. I chose to donate my first wife's organs. We had never really talked about it. I don't regret it, but the information they need to be able to responsibly use the organs is pretty invasive. If I had been less numb, it could have really driven me crazy. No one should be forced to go through it involuntarily.